let's kick it off. So we are here at 8:30. We will get this started. Thank you everyone for joining us for our West Coast edition of Morning Coffee Review, where we talk about all things Bluebeam related. We do have an outline for today. It's back to basics. So if you do have any questions along the way, feel free to ask. And if you have any questions pertaining outside of the basics of review, also, please feel free to ask. This is for you, the community. So remember, any questions related to Bluebeam, we can talk through any workflows. Today, I am joined by Matt Linn, and I will let Matt Linn introduce himself.
Good morning. Thanks for inviting me, Michael. My name is Matt Linn. I am a coworker of Michael's, and whenever Jason can't sit in, they invite me to just talk. I am not a Bluebeam expert, but I field the questions and I give them to Michael, who is the Bluebeam expert.
You do help out though, because in terms of review, being new to it, there's a lot of questions sometimes that you're able to also offer up. So don't sell yourself short. We love having Matt on, and we will kick it off. So let's introduce those of the folks that have never seen review before, since we are back to basics, part one. Well, not really a part one, just back to basics. So we'll just give an overview of how review works, what review is used for, that kind of scenario as we run through it. And again, ask any questions. Let me bring over the chat. Any side talk, just put in the chat. Any actual direct questions for Matt or myself, use in the Q&A area. But as we go through and learn more about review, this review interface is the Review Advanced. So review works off of what we call profiles. I am in the edition of 2020. Review did a huge user interface change from 2017 to 2018. So the UI drastically changed. So if you are listening in and you have an older version of review and you're like, Michael, mine looks nothing like yours, that is because you're in something below 2018. 2018 and above, your user interface usually gets installed with a profile called review. It usually looks like this. When you install it, you have your toolbars on the right-hand side, you have panel on the left-hand side, and then you have the menu bar at the top. Now, the menu bars have the ability to have drop-downs, such as go through and creating, maybe view, synchronize our documents. If you've ever had to open up two different documents side by side and you wanted to sync their views, you can do that by this. Or maybe some batch options and you're like, hey, Mike, I don't have that. Well, that's because you are not in an version or what we would call edition of Extreme. So Bluebeam comes with 3 different editions. There is Review Standard, Review CAD, or Review Extreme. Review Extreme gives you this lovely little button here or menu bar that has a lot of more batch options. You then have the tools, which has markups, which allows you access to markups, just like your toolbar does as well on the right-hand side here. Maybe the window bar. A very underutilized area here is the web tab. So you do have the ability to gain access directly to the web, directly in review if you wanted to. So you do have the ability to search through items in here. There's also the help bar for those of us that are newer to review. This is brand new. I think it came out in a feature update, maybe in 2019 it was a feature update. But it is the find tools and commands. So you can just type in something like snipping tool, and we can go through here and look for snapshots or something like that. You also
Michael,
have,
does the Extreme Edition have everything that the CAD and standard version have?
Yes.
And do they offer a new edition every single year?
No, it's just 3 different editions, and it's feature updates. So review switched from being locked by annual releases, meaning like 21, 2022, right? And they switched to just feature updates. So they will at some point have 21, but that's not year locked. So they're not having to wait for 2021 to come out and then give you all the new features, right? What they've changed it to is they want to release features when they have those ready to push out to end users. So now they're just feature updates versus it being an annual new release of review. Does that make sense?
Gotcha.
Yeah. So that's, and the only way to have that is to have maintenance on your license. So review does have two different licensing structures. There's open license, which is like a server-based license that you put on your server, and up to 5 users can use that one license. That means you have to close review. Another person can open review and use it. That is the open licensing structure. Then they have a perpetual licensing structure as well, which means you can own the license just by paying for it, right? It's one of the, I would say, one of the last software companies that allows you just to own the software flat out, right? Because usually you have to pay monthly just to have the software. And if you don't pay, you can't even open up the software. Review lets you pay for it. You own it at whatever edition you paid for it. Now, if you want the feature updates, like I talked about earlier, you have to pay for maintenance because that's R&D, right? Someone's doing research and development. You're paying for that research and development to then update your software. Now, if you end it, your maintenance, which is your subscription cost, you still get to keep your license at whatever feature update you were at, right? So if I go to check for my updates here, well, I'll go and see. So I'm at 20.2.5. So these were the updates of the 20 edition here. Does that make sense? Okay. And then back here in this help, you do again have the ability to go and find items. Maybe you're trying to look for some training videos or keyboard shortcuts. This is where everything lives right there in the end as well. So those are menus. And then on the right-hand side, I have my toolbars. Now, one thing we could do with these toolbars is move them around the user interface. So the little dotted line here, I can drag, left click, hold, and drag it around the UI. Now, the one thing about these toolbar menus is they are locked in the user interface, so they cannot be dragged outside the user interface. On the left-hand side, we have these things called panels, which have flyouts for those. And those allow you for different options like file access, where I can go through and access recently used files. Or maybe I want to go through and create custom tool sets here, which are markups that are saved. Or maybe I want to look at my thumbnails panel for a specific set of documents. Again, that is what the panels are used for. And these panels can be dragged around the user interface as well. So I can move it to the left-hand side or the bottom or I don't think you can move the top. And then you have the ability to bring it outside the user interface. So if I wanted to dock this on a second screen, I could. That is one of the great benefits of panels versus the toolbar menus. Now, this is what we call a profile. So for those folks that have ever had a MySpace profile that you've customized with your top 8 friends, custom background, right? That's what we can do here. We can customize the way the user interface looks in what we call a profile. So from here at the top left, you have review and then profiles here. And this allows you to go through and change the way the user interface looks along with tool sets, which we'll talk about today, along with custom columns in the markups list, which we'll talk about today as well. So if I just select one of these, it's going to change, which I prefer is the review advanced profile. And it brings my toolbar menu up here to the top. It also has my panels on the right and on the left here. I could switch to a different one as well, such as the quantity takeoff. And this actually opens up some of the panels for me, like the markups list is already populated. Again, this is all due to the word profile and how review works off of profiles. You have any questions about that, Matt?
So are all of these accessible within all the profiles? It's just a quicker access within the profiles?
Correct. You organize the way you're going to use review. Just so like for instance, they have one out of the box called quantity takeoffs because it's specific to quantity takeoffs where they have measurements over here. They have the markups list that's itemized for what information they want to see for the quantity takeoffs, right? So it's for this out of the box, they have it specific to your job of what you're doing in review. You can have it discipline specific, company specific, right? Like field issues. It already populates my custom tool sets with all of their tool sets available for our punch walkthrough for field issues, right?
Okay, So if I were in one of the other profiles, I could still access this. It would just be an additional button or something.
Yeah,
As opposed to automatically
correct.
populated. Yeah. Okay.
Except for the tool sets. The tool sets is a little bit different, and we'll talk about it. When you manage these, they will be able to be shown in all profiles or not. So when you load them in or create them, you have that option to show in all profiles. If you do not show in all, then you won't see them in all. So that's the one caveat. Okay, so now talking about the user interface. Now, if I were getting ready, and anyone again that's listening in, you have any questions along the way that's not pertaining to the topic as well, feel free to ask. We're here for you, the community. So again, ask any questions you need along the way. Now, I'm going to go and open up a PDF here from my recent file access here. And let's open up an architectural set to help Matt. Now, from here, the usual workflow in what some people use with other softwares, maybe you're transitioning over from Adobe into Review, and you're trying to understand some of the markup capabilities. Some users still have old habits die hard. Well, they'll use a text box, right? And they'll say, let's see, there's a door outside here. Why is there a door out here, right? Door question mark. And then they'll come here and use an arrow. Is this something you do, Matt?
No, I use
Not
the call
anymore.
out.
Okay, there we go. So there is a command called the callout, which already has the arrow attached to a text box. But if you were one of those folks that did it with just text, you can still bring an arrow out from the text here. If you right click on the text and hit add leader, it lets you add a leader directly to that text.
Then does it become a call out, or does it still text?
It's still a text. So if I go to my gear symbol here in properties, it still shows up as a subject of text box, but it has call out properties. And I think it has that even without the leader. Nope. So it gives it the call out properties instantly once you changed it, but it still has the subject of text box. Next is the ability to go through and use something like a revision cloud. And I've talked to a ton of folks and going through and learning more of how they're utilizing Review. Most folks are going away from having the call out with the actual revision cloud just because of how they can utilize Review's metadata, right? So instead of busying up this markup area here, like let's say I go over here and I do a revision cloud, and this is called a cloud plus, by the way. So you don't need to make a call out and then a revision cloud. You can just make a call out, which is a cloud plus if you still want to do this method, which has a call out already associated to it. So if you wanted to place it over here. Now, if I did this, now I have the ability, let me Alt Z here to, resize the text box. Instead of busying up the screen here with all of these callouts, if I had an issue with the door here, I could just place a revision cloud. I can double click on this markup and add a comment for it. That way, I know it's not going to busy up my screen, but when we get ready to talk about the markups lists, it is down here. And when I print out a report, I will have that in the report itself. So I'm no longer having to busy up my document set with a bunch of callouts in areas that I don't need them to. I can just associate metadata to the markup that's been placed.
All right, we do have a question, Michael.
Okay.
This is from Tim. This is probably not part of the topic, but I'm curious how others are using Bluebeam and BIM 360 markups issues together.
So actually, though, I don't know when we're posting the blog. I wrote a blog on it. So you can access your BIM 360 documents from Review. So if you want to access PDFs that are in Review that have been published in BIM 360, you can gain access to them currently in BIM 360. Now, so I'll show you the way to do it now. You used to have Studio Prime. There used to be an enabled integration to create studio sessions for those PDFs. But the way to do it now is you're going to access it. You have to have the desktop connector downloaded. So in order to access those PDFs, you have to go to File, Open. You can do it one of two ways. You can do File, Open, or you can do it from the browser in the File Access, which I'll show next. Is accessing your connector, right? So your Autodesk desktop connector. It's a desktop connector, right, Matt? That's what's called.
Yes.
Okay. And then from there, you get the ability to go through and access your PDFs by whatever firm you have available for that. And then you have the review, well, whatever project you have. I've named it my initials and integration. And then you can access your PDFs here. And what happens is it's going to open one up. You'll have a new version of that one. So I can open this one up. Take a second. And then I can make a markup, right? And when I hit save, it pushes that back to the BIM 360 PDF, and it gives it a new version in BIM 360. So if you wanted to mark up in BIM 360, you still can. You just have to be connected to the internet so you can get access to the desktop connector, and then you can mark up the PDFs from there. So if that was your question, hopefully I answered it. If not, I can add some more clarity. The other way is through File Access, and then you can go to the Explorer, which then you can hit the back arrow here, and you can do local, and then, oops, no, it's not local. It is Open File Explorer. And then from here, same thing, click the desktop connector, open the PDF set. And then when that's all done, you still have it in your File Access. So if I go back to my File Access, I can still open it up from here. So if you wanted to, you could pin it and it would open up that one as well. So either one works. Again, whatever workflow you need to help you navigate those waters, because again, Review and Bluebeam try to create this seamless workflow for one document set versus having multiple versions stored on multiple areas. All righty. So as we go through and make markups and get ready to customize them, maybe we take the time. We're going to make this, I don't know, a gas line here. I'm going to change the color to blue, and maybe we're going to add a hatch. As I'm going through and customizing these markups, maybe making different subject matters for them, different information, we have the ability to go over to what we call the tool chest, which are tool sets that we use to reuse markups or create custom markups. This is great for quantity takeoffs. Maybe we want to have some design symbols and quickly place some items as well. Maybe we want to go through and place specific markups color oriented to the discipline. Right here, we have the recent tools, which allows us to place recently used markups. If I close out a review, the markups will go away. Now, if I want to save them, you usually drag them to a custom tool set or up into My Tools, which never goes away as well. So there is two different options for reusing markups in your markups list. Your tool sets, sorry. The way to do that is the properties mode or drawings mode. And currently right now, this is properties mode, which shows an exact image of what you've already placed. So I can quickly place these and replace them in my document wherever they reside or wherever I want to use them. The other one is drawing mode, which is, properties mode, which is the ability to reuse the same properties of that markup. So from right here, I have the ability to reuse the same markup and its properties, but place it maybe in a different manner. And if I wanted to keep these, I could left click and hold and drag it up to My Tools. Or I can grab a markup that's already on a PDF, right click and say add to tool chest and pick a tool set that I want to add it to.
Michael, could you back up?
Yep.
Is it the two icons that look exactly the same that give those two different functions?
Yeah, so what happened here is when I change it to drawing mode, when I place the drawing mode, it still wanted to give me a new edition of the properties of it. So that's why I doubled it.
How did you just change the icon right there? They just switched on me.
Yep. So if you want to change it to properties or drawing mode, you double click on it or right click and you can click drawing mode, right click, properties mode.
Oh, gotcha.
Sorry, I did that quick. Glad you were here.
Gotcha. Okay.
Now let's say you've created these custom tool sets like a punch key walkthrough, right? That has your icon of maybe some plumbing issues here, and you wanted to share this with your firm. You just hit the gear symbol. And then from there, you hit export. And they save out as .btx files, which allows you to share them within the company, create a standard. Even when you're deploying Bluebeam Review, you can have all of these deployed together. I prefer to do it with a profile associated to them. And to export your profile out, you go to Review, Profiles, Manage Profiles. And from here, we can go through and export this out. You need to include dependencies if you want your tool sets to go along with it. All righty. Doesn't look like we have any additional questions. So as we go through talking about different markups and capabilities, let me go through and add some spaces. I prefer when I'm doing a punch walkthrough to have some spaces oriented so that I know what space has items in it. And you can do this if you're using Revit. You can automatically have rooms export out as spaces as well, so that they're itemizing per the space that they're in, which just helps you with your
I'll jump in real
walkthrough.
quick.
Yep.
Something I learned from a previous session with Michael, a space in Review is the equivalent of a room in Revit, not a space in Revit. So there are spaces in Revit. That's not a space in Review. A space in Review is a room in Revit, just to clarify.
Yes, so those are the differences for those items.
Is there the equivalent of a Revit space in Review?
No.
Okay.
Not currently.
Okay.
Okay, so as I went through and made these spaces, the reason why is when I want to go through and make punch walkthroughs, I can itemize by space, which is by room, right? It would be better if it was room, but I get why they do spaces because it can be multi-case use, right? For us, this is instance of I want to know what is going on in that room. So I'm making a space associated to that room. Great. So I can do a couple things with these is I can go through and right click and create an area measurement already on that. Review wants me to apply a scale to the page. I know this document is at a 1/16 of an inch equals a foot. Now, if you're one of those folks that doesn't know the scale for the page, just because they don't put a scale bar on there, you can also use a custom and just say from one distance to the next of what it is. I'm going to apply the scale here. So just like that, I quickly had an area measurement made for this space. I'm going to go through to my tool sets over here that we've talked about before for my punch key walkthroughs. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to start placing them in the space. Now you can do one of two things. You can make your symbols scalable. So I have a scalable tool set here. You'll see this icon. So let's say if I place a door here, when it's not scalable, that's the size of what it is. Now, if I enable the scalability of them, it'll actually scale that door to what it is supposed to be at the scale of the document size, which this is supposed to be 3 foot wide. I believe I made it 3 foot wide. We can check the dimensions here. I wonder if I did it from outside to inside. Nope, 6 foot. So I'm wrong. What's this one? 9 foot. Maybe I made a different scale. We'll say it's a 6 foot wide door. It's a big door. As we go through here, though, I could reassociate it and say that that was supposed to be 3 foot by going and setting a new scale for it. But after that, again, you can make these scalable. We saw how the two scales changed, or we did a morning coffee review yesterday with another end user who prefers to just scale them down themselves. So it's completely up to you if you want them to be scalable as you're placing them on the PDF, or you can scale them down yourselves. This would be better for punch walkthroughs, But if you're trying to get more accuracy of what that size is supposed to be relative to placing it on the document, I'd probably be more accurate than just eyeballing the scale of what it is. But again, to each their own. So we can go through and place these if we wanted to directly in here. I'm going to place a couple just because I'm trying to show what it will look like when we are utilizing a walkthrough in the markups lists with spaces. Okay, so now that those have been made, again, we can take live dimensions because I scaled the page. So if that's something we need to do, maybe there's some MEP folks in here and we need to do pipe networking and get a cost estimate for the amount of pipe or electrical runs, anything like that. We can use the poly length that has a rise and drop with it as well. So there's a bunch of different tools in here. And if anything's piquing anyone's interest, please ask as we're going through. And that way we can utilize it and show you how it could be used for you. Now down here in the markups list, right? So I've made some additional markups that we had before, which were those clouds. There's 8 clouds. But then we have all these other plumbing items as well. So I can organize my data by space, maybe if I wanted to. So I can go over here to space and I can say, and click on my column. Now, how did I get to the markups list? By default, the bottom left, the markups list, 3.3 lines is defaulted to the bottom left. If you click it, it populates it. And this again is itemizing all of our data that's in place on our document. It's organized by columns here. And then those columns have the appropriate data associated to them populating below. Now, if there's some columns in here that you don't want to show, you can go to the markups list drop down here, go to columns, and you can add or subtract things away. Like I don't need the color of these. I don't need the cost or total cost. I don't need the page label. That way you can start seeing your columns in a bit more organized fashion. You can also move these around by left clicking and holding one. You can drag it around the UI. So it changes where these are actually being placed. Like maybe I want the space to be over by the subject. So we have that ability to drag them around. Now, if I want to organize the way my data is being distributed here, I just have to click on whichever column I want to organize by. So if I want to organize by space here, I just click on space and now it's showing me what is in those spaces organized by there. And we can see that there's 12 unused items within the spaces, right? Because there's no space around these specific markups. Any questions about that?
Could you show again how you made the space? Where did you go to create those?
Yep. So there is a space panel on your panel bar. Now, if you don't have access to your space bar, you can right click on a open paneled area. So wherever you see the panels, you can just click right click, say show, and you'll see spaces or Alt S. And to create a space, once you've populated the panel, you will have the add space button, and it's just clicking around the space that you want to add.
And did you say you could automatically do that from Revit Rooms?
Yes. So if you have Revit open and you have CAD or Extreme version of Review, you will have a plugin in Revit. And within the plugin, when you get ready to create PDFs from your plugin, there's settings. So I'll prime Revit up then just to show. As that's populating, we'll talk through it. And then you can decide to automatically create rooms as spaces in Review. They don't come in color coded though, but you can. So you can right click on an existing room and go to properties here and you can change them, right? So if you wanted to change the color associated to those rooms, you do have that ability to go through and change those. And that's more aesthetically pleasing in my eyes. Or you can keep them all the same color. It's completely up to you. So let me open up. I'll just do one of the sample files here. The school has rooms. Do you know, Matt?
I believe so. That's the mechanical one. Do the advanced RAC basic sample project, I think. Single click that one. RAC 2 below from that one.
Advanced.
Yeah,
Okay.
there you go. Yeah. Yeah, there we go.
Okay. So when we're in here, if we want to export items out as, so our rooms, right, as spaces into review, we go to our add-ins. From the add-ins, we have our change settings here. And under here, what we want to do is you can see there's export rooms to spaces. And if you wanted to, you can already create those area measurements as well. So it says here, export rooms to area measurements. So you can also have that. And if there's any openings, you can subtract any openings in that room area as well. So again, then you can say, well, hey, well, what sheets do you want to print? Either A, the current view, or you can specifically pick your sheets that you want to print from. The cool thing about this add-in, by the way, is that you have the ability down here to deselect specific items not to be shown, which is pretty cool. Not a lot of add-ins have that ability to disallow things to print directly from here. So if you didn't want things that were going to be showing up on there, you can deselect these items. Same thing for creating a 3D PDF. For those of us that didn't know, you can create these things called 3D PDFs, which is, again, a side tangent before we were going to go and export and show a summary report, but we'll quickly open a 3D PDF here for you all. It's going to take a second to load. And I think I picked that same project, Matt, but it's metric. So as it loads. There's just a lot of metadata for it. There we go. So with all of this, you do have the ability to create a 3D PDF. This is seen as a .pdf extension. It is the model, but it's in PDF form. You also have what we call the 3D model tree, which is the bottom left here. And this allows you to grab all of the data within it, which again, I grabbed the metric one, but okay. So you can see all of the data that was brought directly from Revit in review as well, from all the component families that were brought in.
Wow, and you can turn the visibility off, it looks like.
Yep. So you can show them not as visible. You can get the data. You can export this data to a CSV file. You can also go through and see a section of this. So if I wanted to, I want to do this. I can move things in here too. So remember, it is static, not dynamic. But if I'm like, I don't want this stair to be here, I can go and actually move this stair if I wanted to.
Whoa.
Or, hey, I don't want the panel of this door to be here. I can go and move the panel of the door.
And what do you mean by this is static, not dynamic?
It's not updating our Revit project. So if I'm hoping to maybe, go through and remove one of these out, it's not going to update where it is in my Revit project. It's only going to update this PDF format of what's in here.
And then can you mark it up similar to what we did in a 2D version?
Yes, but you have to save the view because it locks it at that specific view, because how does it represent a 2D portion to a 3D view, right? Mm-hmm. So it's not a 3D markup, it's a 2D markup. So you have to save views for those over here.
So you could save this right here and it'd be kind of a flattened version.
Yeah. You can also pan around. So if you wanted to show like a view or it's something different. So if we wanted to go through, right? CAD optimize. Look at that. But anyways, so that's a 3D PDF. So again, if you ever have any questions about that, we can answer those. And that's CAD or extreme version of review, only lets you export space room to spaces, or like that, the 3D stuff. So as we go back here, let's talk about our markups lists. So if I go back to my markups list and I want to export this data out, I'm going to actually remove everything else here because we don't want those anymore. So I can quickly just select through and then hit delete on my keyboard from my markups list, and it removes them from my PDF. But from here, I can export these out as a summarized list. So maybe I did a punch walkthrough and I want to see a summary report. I can easily go through and export as a CSV or a PDF format here. I can append it to the back of the PDF. To the set. And let's say it was a 100-page set and I wanted to go through and look for these. Usually you'd have to go through and search page by page and hope you can find them, or someone itemize them. All I have to do here, though, is attach this to the back of the PDF set, and they can look at the summary of everything that's taking place. And they can actually click the markup here, and it brings them directly to where it was made in the PDF set. So again, just an easier method of going through and navigating your markups. Now, Matt, what do you think is what you use mostly when you're using a review currently? Is it just to markup?
Yes. So when I was in the traditional role of architect, it was primarily for submittal review, and that was it. I used it just like I used Adobe Acrobat.
Okay. Were you signing it and sealing it from here or no?
No. When we did submittal review, we never stamped it, but we go to, I guess it's a stamp, but it was like look at your stamps. We had a custom one, and it was like reviewed, reviewed as noted or something, had like several different options, or rejected,
Okay.
revise and resubmit or something like that. But we basically made a custom stamp with those options.
Yeah, so they have some already here, like assign discipline. So when you get ready to place it, a JavaScript populates windows. So you can say, hey, like discipline. I think they had one for review actually out of the box here.
Sure they do.
Released, I think, maybe. Submittal.
Submittal, there you go.
Yeah. So from here, I can click it, checked by the date, the supplier name, architect name. There you go, Matt. I believe Matt told you all that he's a licensed architect. I come from the structural design background. But yeah, so here and then project number. Now, where did I find this one? And where did I get, some of my tool sets? Bluebeam does a great job of having a web-based platform for you to gain access to quick tool sets and custom stamps. I'll put this in the chat, but here's a bunch of tool sets. If you're ever looking for specific discipline tool sets, maybe you want to place landscaping, not in your design environment, just quickly on PDFs, so you can get spacing itemized for it. You can easily do that, or people, right? So if you want to have these windows, you can quickly gain access to them. I'll put them here in the chat. There's also, if you scroll down a little bit more, you have stamps. In the submittal one is what I had.
Cool. We do have a few questions coming in.
Okay.
From Tim, will this recording for the session be sent out or a link to it access at a later time?
So CJ is not here. I believe they get sent out. If not, we do publish them on our YouTube channel. So feel free to check it out. If you go to YouTube and you look for ATG USA, you will be able to find them. How do I get to mine? There it is.
If you go to the right, it says Morning Coffee Review.
Oh, yeah. If you search for us at ATG USA, I'll even put that in the chat. They all get posted.
51 of these. Look at that.
What?
Morning Coffee Reviews.
Yeah. We're on a roll. You can scroll down and you'll see Morning Coffee Review right here.
Okay. From Mark, if you find a good place to circle back around to profiles for a moment. So do you want to go back there and I'll keep reading?
Yeah.
From the Bluebeam website, location, define the location of a shared centralized profiles. Click the button to the right of the, here, I'll wait till you get there. Oh, you're still there, okay. Click the button to the right of the field to browse to the centralized location. Any new or modified profile stored in this location will be immediately available. They cannot, however, be permanently modified by individual users. Any changes a user makes to a shared profile only affect that user and are lost when Revit is closed. The question is, it seems that if users are accessing the profile in the central location and unselect relative path, and the user makes customizations such as to tool chest sets and then saves that profile, that their changes will be saved to that central profile, correct?
So we've actually had a conversation about this before in an early one. And the way, since it's a file, right? So the extension of it is a .bpx, right? It's a file, Windows program, storage. I guess not a program. It's a Windows-based stored profile. So how can you lock that down? Because review doesn't let you just say lock, right? You can do that with tool sets. It gives you a little lock icon, which prevents you, but you, the end user, can still unlock it and save them. The best way to make sure no one updates your profile is to Windows lock it. So you can Windows lock a file, and that's what I would do for your profile. So no one can make changes and then come back up here and hit save, which is what it would do. Because what you're doing is you're managing profiles, and either A, when it's, you're either uploading this for everyone to have the same profile, or B, and you're pointing this to wherever the directory is to it, or B, you're automatically having it import when you're installing the softwares.
Okay, we have another question.
Okay, so if you want,
go ahead. Do you want me to read it?
Yeah, no, I'm reading it.
Okay.
You can read it out loud. Well, we're not live on YouTube, so
right.
No one else can see the question, so read it. Sorry, we're going back and forth. Just read it.
This is Mark.
Yeah.
It is not so much that we want to lock the changes. We want to allow users to make changes to the same central tool set.
Okay. So then, I mean, that's risky, but if that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. So for the tool sets, they're going to reside with the profile. So they can save the profile from here, or they can save the tool set. So from saving the tool set down here, you'll get a lock icon if it's saved elsewhere. So let me export this out of my original folder location and save it to my desktop to show you what the lock icon does. I have it here. So usually you get a lock icon. It looks just like a bolt, not a deadbolt lock, but
is it like that green chain?
No, it's not like the green chain.
Padlock?
It's like a padlock. Yeah, thank you. So it's like a padlock. You'll get a padlock right here, and you click it to unclick it to make changes to it. You make the changes, and then you need to hit save. That'll save. Now, if you're having custom tool sets and you don't, my preferred method, if you're going to have all of these modifications that you're doing, is just export out the profile, save your custom tool sets in a different location so that then they can make updates to it. So these can be exported out individually. Let's say you wanted to have the ability to everyone to change a specific tool set, export it out to the same location, and you can reload just the tool set directly from where it is, because these are saved as .btx files. And then that way they have the ability to go through and open it. Relative path versus non-relative path, that is just if the file gets moved. So relative path means if I move the file and it is not checked, it will only search for the folder location that it's in. Relative will search through all windows for the file name. Just like this happens in Revit when you have absolute versus, what's the other one? Absolute versus your relative path.
So absolute, the downside to absolute in Revit specifically is it'll say M. Ichave and it go to his desktop or wherever, or his Dropbox or whatever. Whereas if you do relative, multiple users, it won't lock into that user.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Especially useful when you're doing like OneDrive or Dropbox or any cloud hosted platform.
Yeah. So this is the ability to do that as well. Or you can not have a centralized, well, you probably want everyone to have that same one. which means that they have to come in and reload it anyways when they want to see the new updates. So it's not as seamless currently yet as a workflow if you want everyone else to have the same updated ones because it's pulling that metadata. You can always attach tool sets if you wanted to a PDF. So if you're like, hey, I got a new one, everyone, you could just file attachment here. You can locate that .btx file like I had on my desktop. And then you can just drop it onto a PDF. I don't prefer to keep the paperclip. I like to change it to a file icon so people know what this is. And that way, when you send that over, you're like, hey, use this for this. They can just double click this and it will open up that new tool set of whatever point they attached it to the document at. So that's another way.
That's cool. And then you can, if I were to open this and then open that BTX and it looked nothing like a profile I had, could I save then that profile and call it new BTX or whatever?
So it automatically populates into the profile and saves to it. So let's go to, so I have the plumbing punch key here, but I know I do not have it in my quantity takeoff. So if I go back to this tool set, right, I don't see it here. All I have to do is double click it. It will open it. Oh, it already says it exists. So it's telling me right now, hey, you have one. Do you want to overwrite the existing one? And there it is right here.
Cool.
Alrighty. Okay.
Do all of the tools that, earlier you showed that properties based versus, when you did the cloud or just the cloud properties, do all the tools have that or just some of them? I'm looking at your number 11.
Oh, so yeah, they can all be switched. So you can right click drawing mode.
Yeah, that's what I meant, drawing mode.
Properties mode, yeah. I don't know about this though. Yeah, it just doesn't. It just doesn't because it's an attachment, right? It's just saying, hey.
So if you did it on that one that like that PE, oh sorry, yeah. Okay, for Mark, when you select on a BTX icon, it may overwrite the tool set, but then saves the tool set into the user's drive and not HTE central location. Oh, sorry, the central location. Sorry.
Yeah, so I double clicked it, it overwrote mine directly here, but wherever this is saved, this specific tool set, when I hit save, right, because changes have been updated to its specific location, then this origin, right, will be where that one is. So it just depends. This overwrote at a different location wise because it's pointing from a PDF edition. It's not saving locally. So I would have probably exported it out to a different location. Now, if they're going to go and re-import from a new location, they need to hit save. That is the caveats to loading an attachment like this, that it's not having a pinpointed location of a directory, right? So when I go back to here, where was that saved? You can modify that punch key specific to the location as well. So again, if you want to have it location-wise centric, you can specifically add it from that location of where it is, right? Existing path is what you want to have. And then from there, that's going to be at that single path location, right? So then you have relative path versus non-relative path that you have for your selection. Now, if an end user makes changes to it and they want to have that changes to it, you need to save it right here under the gear symbol. So if I go through and add or make any updates to it, you're going to hit save. That way, it populates that new data directly back to the central.
Okay. Again, from Mark, correct. The end result is that users that don't understand how to manage the menus correctly can really mess up a central menu setup.
Yep. That's why I don't prefer to have a central menu setup specific to tool sets. There should just be, and that isn't, sorry, that is incorrect. I prefer people to not make it editable, right? If we're having a central location, it is a one location already done to what they need. If an individual wants to make specific customizations to those markups, great. That's going to be on their own location wise. It's not going to be company wide, right? If we are instituting a template of custom tool sets and there will be modifications, one person makes the update, saves over that tool set, right? So one person, not everybody, not everybody's hands are in the cookie jar for that one.
So same with any standards workflow.
Yep. There should be one in terms of Revit design, right? One BIM manager or BIM manager altogether. I guess not Revit design, because BIM as a whole is a terminology, not just centralized around one software solution, would be updating it accordingly. Somebody can send you a markup. They can say, hey, Matt, I want you to make this markup, and I have this markup I made. Can you add it? I as BIM manager can just right click and add it and then save over the origin location, right?
Mm-hmm.
And your question earlier, Matt, was, hey, can you do it for these ones? These are grouped icons, so you can't change them.
Okay. Something I've done for standards in the past at previous firms is having a folder on the server that's locked. It's read only to everyone except me or the BIM manager, whoever's defining the standards. And that'd be another way to do this. So other people, even if they tried, because new employees may not know the proper workflows, they could go in there and try and edit it. And then the folder structure on the server is going to lock them out. They can see it, they can read it, they can extract the information, but they can't overwrite it. All right, we got a couple of questions coming in from Mark. Then, is there a way to push out a profile or tool set to all users or a select group of users?
So I would look up deployment for that question, because I think there is. I just don't recall. You had to download the deployment editor specific to those tool ones, because you can do scripts where they re-plug those in. So I would just look at this. I'll put it in the chat. You can read through it. There's great material on it. Next question.
Okay, from Giselle. Super basic question. How can you share projects to another group who doesn't have Bluebeam? Running into issues where our partners are unable to open the doc. Instead, it says files have yet to be uploaded.
Uploaded to what? You can put it in the chat.
Studio.
That's weird.
Now, I know that there's a free version of Review. Is that correct? Is that still correct?
Yep.
Can the free version view Studio projects?
Correct. So is it Studio Sessions you're talking about, Giselle, or Studio? I said Sessions, right? Studio Sessions or projects? You can use the chat. You don't have to use the Q&A.
Projects.
So I haven't seen the files uploaded yet. If you're having that issue, we can definitely reach out to our support, 15-minute response time. But if you're trying to share a document with them, they have to have Review, right? They can have the free version. So Review turns into a free version when it's past the 30-day free trial. And then after that, you can pay for it, or you still have access to what we call Studio. Studio has two parts to it: Studio Projects and Studio Sessions. Studio Projects is unlimited storage for any file type and any file size. They do not cap you on that. Sorry, I can't type and talk at the same time, or I'll type it down.
Is that the only difference between projects and sessions, is the storage capability?
So you still store. So they're just two different kinds. So sessions is projects is storage. Sessions is collaboration on 2D and 3D PDFs. So it's more collaboratively marking up documents. So under projects, if they still can't see it. So
you need both.
It comes with both. Okay. This is just you using either live collaboration or not, right?
Okay.
So within projects, if I'm going to utilize projects, and I want to go through and share a document because for some reason they can't see it in here. Or another case scenario is I have an email system that doesn't let me send more than like 28 megs or something like that. How can I send a large file? I can upload it to projects because it's free, comes with any version, standard, CAD, or Extreme. You can upload it to the project here. You can right click on the project itself and you can share a link to anyone, either via lifetime of project or 24 hours. And it's just a shareable link. So when you copy and paste it in an email and send it to them, they can click it. And right here, they'll see that new file location. This is .rvt. So when I hit download, downloads like anything else from your a website, and then you just open it in its use case. But we all know Revit files. We should probably go and open it from in Revit, right, Matt?
That's correct. Always go to open in Revit because you miss a bunch of options. You don't know if you're opening a central or a local. You need to be specific. Yeah, good clarification there, Mike.
All righty, good catch. So that's the way to do this for a shareable link. Again, I'd have to see their end to see what is causing them to have issues where something saying not loaded. I personally have never seen it. I've worked in large projects where you have multiple end users from different places in the States, and you have multiple documents open. Keep in mind, you can create these things called dashboards. So instead of storing your PDFs on your local server, why not have them in a studio project where everyone can gain access to them? And instead of clicking through a Windows-based file structure, you can go through and create what we call a dashboard, which is clickable links to different documents in the project. So let's say I wanted to go and look at my drawings and go and look at maybe my architectural sets and my wall sections. I can then go through, I wonder who put wall sections in large plans. It's fine. And I can go and look at these if I wanted to, right? And if there was a link, it will actually open up that link too if we wanted to go through and go to that link as well. So all of this is in one area. All you have to do is click through links like RFIs, RFI 100 through 149, and go up and open 100. Here's RFI 100 here. And this is that lock icon I was talking about for your tool sets. It's the same as the one for Studio Projects. Now, Studio Projects works as a check-in, check-out basis. So if you're trying to work on PDFs and you want to check them out to use them and work on them in review, you have to have the paid for version to do that. You can have the free version just to look at the PDFs and the files, but you have to have the paid for version in order to check it out like a book, mark it up. Matt could still open up the PDF if he wanted to when I have it checked out, but what he can't do is edit it because it's a book and the library only has one book of that specific copy.
So it's just opening it a read only.
Yep, exactly. But like Windows, right? If someone else has a PDF open, it says someone else has it open.
Oh, right.
In sessions is live collaboration on 2D or 3D PDFs. So if I wanted to collaborate, I have Joe who's out in the field. Joe's going to wake up. He's on his iPad and he's doing punch walkthroughs, and I want to see what he's doing. As Joe finally wakes up, we'll see him populate here. So Joe is out in the field. He's on his iPad. I want to follow Joe in what PDF he has open, which is weird that since it already had it open, it was going slow. Hold on. iPad issues. I can follow Joe. And as he's out in the field looking at issues on the PDF, I can follow what he's doing. Hey, there's some issues out here that are wrong with these trees. So Joe on his iPad is going to make a revision cloud and then attach a live photo of me and Matt. Say cheese, Matt. I caught you before you said cheese. And then there we are.
Let me ask you, does Joe know you're following him?
No.
Creepy. Cool.
But I can. So again, this would be like a replacement, let's say, for Zoom. We don't have to go into Zoom. I can just follow an attendee. I can stop following the attendee if I wanted to. We can do markup alerts. So if I was in here and I wanted to alert Joe to a specific markup, I can right click on the markup and it's choose attendee, and we can give them alerts. Alerts will show up down here in the notification. I'm pretty sure you're in this, Matt. No, you're not. Okay. Notifications will show up right down here. So you have the ability to see if someone alerted you for those as well. You have the running record report, which itemizes everything that's ever taken place in this specific session. Again, this is free with any version of review. Now, let's say Joe doesn't have internet connection out in the field, because that happens. He can still disconnect. I can't watch him live, but once he makes all his markups and he gets back to the internet, it'll push them all back onto here. But we are nearing the end of the time. We got a minute left. If you have any questions, feel free to ask before we close it out here today. Matt, do you have anything else to add there, or any questions before we end it out?
No questions, but cool stuff. I learn something every time I sit in. I need to sit in more often.
Yeah, it's great. It's always good to know more about review, and I love having you here and also building your knowledge pool of review and the great questions you ask as well. Tim, it looks like you raised your hand. If you have a question, you can put in the Q&A or the chat. You might have hit it accidentally. That's okay. And thanks again, Matt, for jumping in today. I know it was short notice. We appreciate you filling in for Jason, who is another Bluebeam certified instructor. We have this morning coffee review every Tuesday at 8:30 CST. Thanks, Mark. So feel free to check us out then. And we will give you an update about this coast shortly. There will be a review at the end, or a survey. It's not a review. Please fill it out. If you have any questions, if you want to see more of this, if you want us to keep this going, please put in the chat survey there so you can let us all know. Thanks, everyone. We will end it here. Thanks, Matt, for joining in, and have a good rest of your week.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.